I'm Luke Banton, and welcome to DETERIORNATION. This is episode 4, the digression webisode.
Kate Caldwell. Dr. Caldwell. No.
Don't litter. Don't tailgate people. Don't be rude. Always say please and thank you, even if they're a schmuck. Don't lie. There really is no need to. And if they love you, they'll accept whatever it is. Don't be cruel. There's no need. Don't be selfish. Yet again, there's no need. Don't go out of your way to be nasty. It's beneath you, and it makes them look great. Be kind to yourself and to everything around you that you possibly can. Don't be a cunt. I want that edited.
Something's happened to my face.
I can feel my face when I...
Claire.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fabby. Oh, you're so handsome. Mm. Do you remember that time back in 1995 with the Quaaludes and the Roofies? Yeah, it was a little bit like that. Except less Cronenberg and more Carlin.
We on 4 seconds. Yeah, so try to fit this in the some of my clip recordings for talking are getting clipped while I'm trying to make my important points. So yeah, but like for instance, to begin with, I think it was when they had approved me to start working. This guy who owns, co-founded the group, is standing with the cosmetics counter girl who became a drug dealer, and they were standing looking at each other like this, sort of pointing their hips towards each other, and yeah, Cassandra was going like this with her finger. And then she started meeting me for, like, we'd hang out, or it'd be lunch break or whatever, and we'd have a drink, a snack, and a chat. And there were all these jokes being made about, like, if you peel the label off the top of a red eye bottle, it means you're thinking about your dick. And but what her and that owner of the company did when they were, I knew, I'm like, is this psycho mumbo jumbo? Is this, would you tell me, like, if you have some sort of checking system who's suitable to work and why, and I think you should present your, like, I guess, of course, if you start a business company, you have your every right to choose who you can have work for you and not, like, duh, that's absolutely fucking basic knowledge. But putting you through, like, yeah, like putting you and subjecting you to a check process where you know, you're approved of if you get certain things right or you comprehend certain things. But what I'm saying those things should be for private companies, and probably for most companies, is comprehensive awareness of the rights charter. It should be the rights charter that brings the company together as far as idealism goes, not the Freemasonry of the co-founder. So it's like, oh, just because I am the co-founder, I built this company, and I go to the Freemason temple, and we, you know, we do these grand poobah ceremonies, and chant, and yeah, as I said, I'll be learning more. I'll do more than John Safran did in exposing the Freemasons. Trust me. But yeah, what is it? How do you become correct if the person constantly approving of you isn't teaching you or investing in your knowledge and awareness of pharmacy and opportunity and professionalism, but is instead like has some eerie interest in you know, early childhood stuff you'd like to forget about, or that's personal and you don't want to be turning up to jobs every fucking week going, yeah, my childhood, blah blah blah. And why are they interested in it so much? And why are they and then he admits to being a Freemason. I'm a Freemason. He's saying it like he's proud. If they have ideas against Christianity, there's probably a good chance I would agree with a lot of them, but I'd probably think their religion is stupid as well. Like, so I'm tired of what I've been caught up in. It's been like the first serious character attack on me. Well, the second. I left the first one before it got too fucked up. But this one's gotten beyond fucked up, and they've turned out to be worse than the church. So like, I'm certainly aware that there's this religiosity in the minds of the two men, that so they seem like they're this intimidating, and the talk about them is like, you know, the rumors about the Freemason guy fucking the accountant and all the chatter that goes around. They're so ruthless and ruthless and ruthless this, ruthless that, and but that's what's disappointing is it's not when they give you attention. Really, you have a right to ask yourself if the context in which you're getting the attention you're getting has anything to do with your job. If it doesn't have anything to do with your job, but has something to do with correcting you in some way, there are ideas they can share with you through polite conversation and be elaborate about. But what I've learned is that entire check and correct procedures can be they can absolutely be flawed if the person checking has shit judgment. And that's not me trying to say that no one can ever judge me or anything stupid like that. We all judge and we all are judging. That's human nature. But you know, language forms tend to, in their utility, come down to questions and statements. And there is such a thing as asking the wrong question, asking a stupid question. No. And so if the person's doing some sort of social scientific inquiry into you, just can't comprehend that you defend the human rights charter, and it means a lot to you. I mean, I think it could be built on. There are marginalized demographics in the rights charter who I think their fundamental rights could stand to have better representation than they presently do in the literature. Diversifying, you know, a favorite thing for me, sometimes I would do drugs while doing this, other times not. certainly wouldn't need to, because it was very interesting, but taking in like the whole belief system that, you know, people around you were well into when you were a kid, and challenging yourself to consider what's going on in other philosophies, you'll find others, your whole life changes, and others enjoy your company more, and yeah, so, you know, stupid questions are these, you know, I think I'm now like 90% sure that the both of them are Freemasons, because for them to say the amount of like go and be gay things they've said to me at work, I think the two of them have some sort of Freemason. I think it's more than a bromance. I think yeah, but he tries to go after, like, in simple terms at work he'll say I own poofs, I own poofs. So it probably means if you checked his accounts and shit, he'd have investments in various types of dangerous mind profiles. And he thinks he owns these so-called poofs, and yet he goes to this Freemason temple. So yeah, you know, him wondering if he can martyr someone in the city and like represent them to be dangerous or thoughtless or not independent and not in favor of the rights charter or the, you know, arguments for a more progressive developments on the rights charter and its, you know, its permutations. Instead of that, he'll be going to his Freemason temple, you know, having a chant and like, thank you, Grand Poobah. I've got to learn about this religion. Like, it's probably going to be it must be stupid. Like, from the experiences I've had with these employers, it's got to be a fucking stupid religion. Their view of Jesus is that he's a martyr, which they seem to sum it up as a person who they try to go around being idealistic and spread an ideology to everyone, like a preacher or something like that, and that's their cause. Like, their ideas are their causes, and then they martyr the person for his cause, and when they try to confront him, he just gives up and says everything was just out of love. Apparently, is a sort of summary I've been given, and that I think is the Freemasons' view of Jesus. So I've been godless. The problem that I find personally with using the term atheist, saying I'm an atheist, is that if another person's using that noun as to denote a group, we don't necessarily agree that atheists are a group. So like, your godless ways might have you might be so different to all the other atheists that you meet. You know, I even argue with atheists who say, well, I lost all my faith in religion, so now I'm an atheist, so now I believe in science. And I'm like, well, it sounds to me like you're still looking for things to believe in. The only thing that an atheist has in common with another atheist is godlessness. Every other detail about them can be completely different. So we're not really a group. But yeah, so this Freemason view, I mean, yeah, so I'm not a Christian, and I enjoy burning Bibles, as you've seen. But that original text, the oldest text on Jesus, he's not much of an idealist. He doesn't rise from the dead. He doesn't confess to being the king of the Jews, and it's more like he was writing. It's like a poet. Like, imagine a bunch of Imagine someone doing graffiti tagging in in Woden and then getting nailed to a cross for it. It's a bit like that. It's just the charge against him wasn't true, and it was a stupid. I mean, it's tragic. An innocent Jewish man died. So I claim to respect Jesus. The debate I have with Christians is that, well, I respect Jesus. It's just that it's not right to be calling him God incarnate. Because I'm an anti-theist. I'm against trusting in the supernatural. But I'm against these Freemasons too. So they're going, oh, Jesus was a martyr. He ran around teaching all these ideas, and then, yeah, then he just gives up. Then he just gives up out of love. Says it was all out of love. But well, the scholars have worked out, that copies of the Mark manuscripts were needed for them to write Matthew, Luke, and John. So Matthew, Luke, and John they justify being called plagiarisms. So you can't say the teachings of Jesus are definitely in Matthew, Luke, and John. You can't say he taught any of that. And how perfect, that's where all the miracle stories are too, and all of the walk on water is there too, and the turning water into wine. So yeah, it's not actually accurate to say those are Jesus' teachings. So if this Freemason religion is trying to take all four Gospels from the Christian Bible and say, here's our template for pursuit of a martyr, then they're and Jesus is a martyr because some scribes put words in his dead mouth 25 years after he died. So now we've got a template prototype for what constitutes a martyr. Let's go, Freemason pharmacists, power up, and let's go make more martyrs and martyr their cause. And they're it's so stupid because, yeah, I've seen what they do, and if they fuck up, they'll go, oh, okay, stop forcing the drugs, and then we read them wrong. It's like the only way. So you needed an open enough mind to read their ideas and philosophy when you did invade their privacy. You invaded their privacy. You went through the documents they had on their computer, and you assumed the context of everything they wrote, and you saw it a certain way. You saw it as if they had ideas and ideals and values that justified you saying they had an ideological cause, and that it was your job to martyr their cause. But they get it. They are so fucking wrong. If Freemason scientists are thinking that, then the Freemason scientists haven't even gone, oh wait, like Jesus didn't even teach like 3/4 of the things they're saying he taught. They were like, if anything, it might look like, a bullshit story was written so that King Herod and his queen, or the political forces that executed Jesus, maybe they were getting charged with, like, this is an unjust execution, you shouldn't have done this. Oh, what should we do? Oh, let's retell his story. Let's say that he rose from the dead, and he can fly, and his poop turns into gold, and turns water into wine, and he can bring the dead back to life, and he can cast demons out of people, and he can and he's got all these morals and rules to live by that he says, and yeah, so I've read, this was a conclusion I'd come to a while ago, is I love the Nietzschean book, the Nietzschean Antichrist. It's a philosophy book that is not very long, and it's about the passion of someone who is really ready to oppose theology. Just the only point where I disagreed with Nietzsche in that book is, well, I questioned it. I said I don't think I can go that far. Is the slamming Jesus into the category of a fucking martyr, because, and yeah, I'm not a disciple of Jesus. I'm not a weekend warrior for Christ. I'm not a Christian. But I say, yeah, I do respect who our best, but by measure of our best means to have any sort of literary trace or comprehension of who he was and what he stood for, which seems to be this Gospel of Mark. I respect who he was and what he stood for, and consider his execution, the crucifixion, to be offensive to me. It combines suicide, rape, and murder into one. It's not something. And if the next Christian that tries to say he died for me, I'll engineer a slow prank on them of some kind, because it's just that, to me, that sort of teaching is a disrespectful one. Like, don't you know Jesus died for you? And some churches will even try and guilt trip you with it. It's like, so yeah, I could probably understand. I could probably talk to a Freemason and agree on certain points with why they have contempt for Christian thinking. But I also think, I suppose now I have to admit, I have contempt for what I know of Freemason thinking, and in particular the interplay between someone being a Freemason and also thinking they can be a social scientist at the same time. On so many fronts, and all these details will be solidified in my publication, and then there's this information, these webisodes as well. But yeah, you know, so they've got, yeah, their check and correct system, which is like, so it's so that they can feel comfortable with you being a part of the company. So this really isn't even a it's not even for the majority of it. It's not a it's not, you know, it would have been more polite if you said, if you wanted to know about my sexual orientation, if you approached me and didn't violate the Sex Discrimination Act of 1984 and asked, do you mind telling me what your sexual orientation is? And if that had been said to me in the store by the owner, I would go, wow, that's impressive. He does care about the rights charter. And then I would have answered his question. But instead, you know, it's like he's really proud of the way he runs his measurements or something to informs his conclusions. Because he was just like, you be a good poofter. I can't do the voice he does it in. Just be a good poofter. I was standing still. I wasn't even talking to anyone. But yeah, just the assumptions loaded in that statement. I went back and went, well, so he's got some sort of system for like studying someone. He obviously can't get a proper read on their tastes. But it became more, over the years at large, it became more about yeah, I'm like, well, what does it take to be approved of intellectually as stuff? But then what I learned, yeah, in the over time, was that all the time they were constantly thinking, oh, what you know, is his behavior so stupid that he will go out and, you know, oh look, I'm not sure what behaviors they imagine I could ever approve of. That's another thing. I think as businessmen, they're proud of rebates from dispensed prescriptions submitted to the processing plant and claimed for rebate that are in the like $1,000 mark, which means, you know, if you're on antipsychotics, you'll make them $12,000 a year. This one issue I'm watching is how they're trying to say that strong opiates aren't sufficient for pain, for physically disabling pain even. It should be for You know, and there'll always be examples. There'll be examples too of all of their antipsychotics going horribly wrong, and they can actually be damaging. It would disappoint me if at heart a person's goal was I want to boost my antipsychotic script dispensings. And that was a point of focus for them. That was influencing their judgments, in addition to their judgments already being influenced to the point of making absurd errors because of their religion. You have to think about this question. It's yes, you can point to the Rights Charter and say that says everyone has the right to their beliefs, but if your beliefs are like, if that's your religion, like that's a system of things you believe in, you know, it's actually it's the worst way to think if you want to be a social scientist. You have to know more. You'd actually have to know more about the rights and freedoms of people that you don't even really like their personality, or you're emotionally indifferent towards them. And you'd run your little social science inquiry while being while yourself remaining in a neutral and emotionally reserved you know, mind state, and you were just operating off principles, and the questions you phrase are all derivative of principles such as universal application of the Rights Charter to all people, and you know, precise considerations made as to the context of material in their possession. You know, because with you know, if anyone could, it'd be like some, you know, we're gonna have to confiscate the forks from your kitchen because you might we think you're gonna stab someone's eye with it. Oh, why is that? Well, because of the scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker puts a pencil through someone's eye socket. You know, we're Freemasons, we think seeing is believing, so we think you saw that movie and now you're trying to find ways to put items into people's eye sockets. It's just, yeah, you can't, it's just fucking stupid if you're having to try to earn the intellectual approval or in the professional world from two religious people who seem to be thinking of you more through the filter of their vapid religion than they are about why your rights matter on the Human Rights Charter, or what you're about, or what things that the business can teach you so that you're gaining further education throughout your career with the company. And instead all they want to do is pick fights over like argumentative fights over video. So it's like, it's weird. It's like not only you know, not only you're working in a pharmacy and you're learning shit about pharmacy, you are learning fuck all about pharmacy, but it's like that's not enough for them. They actually want to now move in on how the best grades you got in college were in media and art. And so it's like, not only will you not get a opportunity in working in this pharmacy, even though we want to keep giving you shifts and telling you to keep coming to this job, we want to essentially rape your best college grades and make an insanity profile that draws on the same themes that you got your best grades in college. It's stupid. And not a single one of the dispatched people connected with this businessman, not a single one of them has sat down and said, okay, video, what as a category, what does video mean to you? What does art mean to you? Like, you know, yeah, it's like they've had a go at me in 1997 or something, because I had a well, yeah, even as a kid, I mean, I wasn't a fan of toy guns. I remember having a Super Soaker, and that was fun because that item was so it was so unlike a gun, and you know, you shoot bursts of water at people, but yeah, I just recently posted a photo on Facebook of my first painting I was about 4. I had painted a painting of a bird. Someone had asked me to say what the picture was of, and I had said it was about a bird getting popped in the head, like someone had shot the bird. But certainly, yeah, these values, these you know, thinking about why art came together in the ways that it has is part of what makes it enjoyable. And you know, anyone can enjoy the experience of in principle of experiencing a form of art, and it doesn't mean they're that doesn't make them that doesn't mean that their prescriptive moral imperatives are in jeopardy or compromised in any way because of the content of a record or a film. And so I think the only sort of scientist who would even try to peddle a profile that suggests otherwise, they've got to be truly religious, and like they have to be religious, because what the religious are always wanting to say that you know, their faith is not dangerous or negligent in the modern world, and their ideas, their ideology, and their religious beliefs, they always want to say the values they're teaching aren't at the best negligent, like, you know. And so to take this cheap shot of pointing at celebrities and art and entertainment and saying, well, we think these are the cause of a dangerous mind, I think choice is the cause of agreed values. So it also pufferizes someone's thinker's context, and leads to short tempers. It's what I noticed too about these two, Gary and Roger, these two businessmen, is that they are much more short-tempered than me. And that's a trait I've noticed in religious males in Australia too many times to count. You know, you voice a point of view, or someone talks to a religious person in a way that they don't really like, and they will snap and yell. They'll also do irrational things like, you know, call people they don't even know love, and love by these men's love. I mean, I tried very much to get along with these people. It's just my personal preference, which I'd hope they'd learnt about that. It's like, I don't go to you guys' houses. I don't call you when you're at home. I don't it's not that I completely don't want to know you. This is while I'm working for them. It's not that I completely don't want to know you, but like you their level of interest in my private life over all those years did not make me any happier. And it wasn't because I have, and then there's the sort of people to go, oh, does that mean you have something to hide? And I'm like, fucking hell. It means I don't want to invite you to the next tea party. Yeah, so you know, and that this theme will come up more in bits and drips and drabs in this webisode series, but there's also the book, because now I can even explain how well, I have awareness of how a study system itself, like a whole metricality, is built on error, because once again of the religionists who have designed it. Yeah, I'm surprised, like, and then they want to make these profiles to say, you know, if a kid had a dangerous father, then he's bound to grow up to be dangerous himself. So they can't even work out how a recovering 5-year-old would think, more or less naturally. And then, so their religion must be stupid. Like really, really stupid. We know throughout history, so many occasions, that it was the church, religious organizations, who are always trying to stop the innovative scientist from demonstrating the products of their work and all the effort that they went to. Galileo, you know, and then it's the church, and then the church is saying, no, you can't say that Earth isn't at the center of the universe. God made it and God put it at the center. You can't just say it's part of just some solar system. Like, the church were really offended at Galileo, and it's so this sort of thing is still going on now, like in healthcare, in certain parts of healthcare, where truly stupid things are being assumed, truly stupid things have been implemented in. Yeah, it's like, what would happen if Galileo, you know, made his discoveries in science, and then the church told him to recant his teachings and burn his work. It's like, what would happen if that lab was actually taken over, all the resources were taken over by those same religious people? Like, destroy your work. Earth is at the middle. It's in the middle of space. It's at the center of the universe. That's where the Lord put it. And then they became the scientists for it's almost the makings of a horror story in itself. You know? We're at a distant base, but we believe we've found a dangerous person. How can you tell? Oh, because I was at the Freemason temple last Sunday and chanting, and it's just, I can really tell we've got one this time. It's so dangerous. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I'll be going into more detail later. Just be careful. The moral of the story is, if you're in private sector work and someone is checking you and they have this check, correct, approve step by step thing that they follow, ask them what their credentials are, what sort of judgments they're trying to make. Ask them for even documents about what they think they've measured and worked out about you from inquiries into your personal life, and say, I want these all in writing before I agree to join the company. The reason for that is that the owner of a company is, you know, people are human, so if you're being assessed by someone who just cannot judge people, yeah, and you get your concerns later on, because then you're working in the company, you're serving people, and you watch yourself with the customers, and you're more polite. and less intimidating, and you know, they like to, some have used the term ruthless, than this company owner. But like, if the things he says to you when he talks to you in person violate a rights statute in the rights charter and are incorrect and are offensive, and he thinks that you have to absolutely enjoy being spoken to that way, then whatever checks this person has run on you, as far as your personal life is concerned, to come to those conclusions and then speak to you in that manner in the workplace, you need to guard yourself from any possible chance of misrepresentation, and getting essentially getting defrauded by a scammer. Like, this person might pull what will in the end prove to have been a scam. And to learn all along it was because they're judging you through some religious mentality. Hey Maddie. And like, you know, this is someone I do not really, I personally do wish I'd never met them. I would not accept a reference from them. They used to call me Cool Hand Luke. But I used to feel like saying, you know, I want every document or note pertaining to your inquiry into my life, social life or personal life, at least personal life, I want to read it on paper. I want to see what judgments and considerations you've made that have led you to conclude what you've concluded before accosting me the way you have during a work shift. I want it all in paper so that if any of it's wrong and warrants being contested, then that could be done at a court, or yeah, etc, etc. So 39 minutes. Yeah. So anyway, that's the moral of the story. It's the interesting thing about Roger, you learn, you know, that he's known to be the ruthless one in the company, and yeah, so sexual accosting, as I learned it's called, that 1984 Sex Discrimination Act. It talks about how you are to be fairly addressed in a workplace, and yeah, I mean, I try to think there are certain things you can come to learn and be familiar with about certain other personalities based on the way they talk, and this was emphasized in his staff training book about, you know, the level of sensitive attention that should be paid to tone of voice while doing retail pharmacy work. And yeah, I think he's got that sort of tone of voice where he knows, you know, he'll learn about your spirituality and then find some way to measure the scales and the decibels that the person sings psalms and hymns and sings love songs to their imaginary god, and then work it out so that when you're getting counselled or buying meds from him, they speak in a similar tone, so that, you know, then the customer walks away thinking, well, that was just the answer to my prayers. Something like that. Yeah, I actually would have liked it more if it's better if it said, you know, everyone has their own kind of language in many respects, and you a tone of voice style that gets sort of locked in and approved of by the bosses went beyond what it meant for me to be talking comfortably, or how I would comfortably speak for quite some time. You know, maybe I was late bloomer with my voice deepening, Yeah, so definitely knew he had an angry side. It's just been this, you know, because I had hopes that he was possibly the more responsible one if Gary had a psycho-religious side. But with what I'd heard about the reputation and then the check and correct, and that's a very yeah, it's very. I understand that criteria must be met to work a retail job, sure, but instead of, you know, your career investment, you get this let's check and correct him fucking at every. It was like it was actually more berating than high school. At high school at its worst moments. Because they're always thinking, and they're talking about genes cause that could mess up a cause a lot of unnecessary hassle and bother for people if you pick out a family somewhere and go, well, there was some violence, you know, when the kids were young, and so we got to teach the kids that the genes have left them with all these sorts of triggers. So without realizing how or why, or teaching them about willpower and independent thought, let's teach them that they're like decked out with all these genes that are just going to go off at any random moment. And you know, the kid that gets beaten on when they're a 6-year-old becomes the guy who blows a crater in you know, Parliament House. It's just fucking retarded. They would, yeah. Concepts like that are so multifaceted and relativistic and you know, they say themselves about health and why, you know, everyone doesn't respond to antihistamines in the exact same way because everyone's physiology is different. And yeah, it's like it's the horrid word from the dictionary I've been reading and thinking about. Like, oh yeah, that was accosting. Oh, that was accosting too. Oh, that was accosting. My boss, one of my bosses had this thing going where he's like, I'll teach you a new word every week. I'm like, this is not an investment in a progressive pharmacy career. I'd rather wear makeup. But it went, and then it leads to his boss later saying, you know, I'd pretty much already left the company, and then these contact points at home. At my previous home in Downer, and they're like, come back to the company, find a poof. His whole approach, I haven't what's the best word for it? I guess when you see comedians be gay in sketches, I mean, I've never, yeah, where he got his gay thing from, I'd like to talk to him and get him to bring forward his his documents, because yeah, the issue is that he'll insist that he knows through his social scientific genius and his means at social scientific studies that, you know, he measures you for a homo. It's like there's something that I definitely know from experience, and you know what I like in my personal life, that your metric is wrong. And like I've been left wondering now if he had an incident of some kind when he was young and then became a scientist. So he had some incident with his mother in Tasmania. Decided, you know, he's disgusted from the thought of having children and raising any children of his own, so he just goes around pretending he's a qualified social scientist, and then wants to run these studies. And, you know, He doesn't care if it's ruining lives. He doesn't care if yeah, that's not the side of pharmacists are. There are many pharmacists whose minds I really respect, and their conscience isn't invested in the net output of antipsychotics in their pharmacies. It's like they should have said, I've become a pharmacist because I believe in spreading antipsychotics onto everyone. Absolutely everyone. Until we can argue that they're a preventative medication too. So people will be like, how do you know this person's psychotic? They've shown no evidence. It's also good to take as a prevention, just in case they do become psychotic one day. You never know. And you know, they'll be saying things like that next. Like you know, a kid will have a grazed knee. So yeah, a kid will fall over and have a grazed knee, cry for a minute, and they put a band-aid on, and they'll be like, well, you know, psychiatrists know about all these sorts of things, transference. Her knee was grazed, she might go to school, get her scissors in the classroom and cut all these other kids' knees in the classroom in a psychotic outburst. You don't know, parents, you don't know if your child will go down this path. So just start taking antipsychotics for 6-year-olds. Start giving them to them now, and then people will start coming along with cameras and microphones going, you know, it seems like there's this trend now in big pharma where so many more profiles are cropping up to warrant the continued dissemination of profiles about what you seem to be calling psychotic behavior. And you know, and there'll be people who have learned about entertainment and theatre and arts and performance, and they'll be like, well, it'd be like them trying to here I meet my hello, Facebook, Instagram. Happy Mary. New sign language. Hey Fernando, my friend Fernando is here. He's told me to fuck off, so I have to fuck off. Peace out. Hello, February 9, 2019. Now, Deterioration at the moment is still going through some editing, basic editing, and preparing the webisodes. At the moment there are 4, and I'll try to upload one hopefully today. Yeah, I'll leave that there for now. Thank you. Okay, testing 1, 2. Yeah, so I apologize for the fragmented files that will be assembled into this next spiel on a bit of a synopsis on private sector bureaucracy and the scars of convoluted workplace metaphysics. So I've now had two file recording interruptions today. I've had some hacking issues with this phone for a little while, but I don't know what the intended reversal were I to complain about it. I mean, I'll be dealing and talking to Vodafone or about the hacking that I've experienced. All I can say is efforts to censor what it is I have to say are to some extent fucking up my shit. So yeah, I was talking about essentially this concept of private sector company privileged information, and the onus and impetus on a worker to be a safekeeper of the company's protected privileged information, at the risk that one would lose their job were they not to keep privileged information, and kind of getting led on a string in a way, because of not this imperative in principle, but because of the failure to have it elaborately defined, clearly defined, and certainly not defined on paper. So this is 2 minutes now. We'll see if this video file records before it gets mysteriously deleted from the phone. Yeah, so I've been talking about a person's sort of check and correct linguistic routine, and I'm trying to be sensitive to what these people as third parties sort of have to do in their capacity as the owners of a private company. And I wouldn't, if I myself had a private business going, you know, as a DJ, I wouldn't have anyone assist me during any gigs who was unreliable with equipment, or who was too high to be able to be of any assistance to the show. You know, so yeah, what I think continues and is annoying throughout the duration of a career is if professional. Yeah, so welcome, this being episode 4, I think. And I should have made the theme on hacking, because there's been a little bit in the hacking department in the production of making this episode, so it's a bit of a bunch up together of various erroneous smaller clips. However, yeah, that will be the 60 minutes for this episode. So yeah, hope you enjoy, and YouTube's great. Best wishes for 2019.